right before your eyes. South Florida is shifting, the tides start to turn. If you don't know the math, you're gonna get burned. Yeah, this is the Miami Condo Exchange. Welcome to the Miami Condo Exchange, where we break down the price, the scope and the range. With Peter Zalewski, keeping it real, digging deep in the dirt of every single deal. From the buy-side pressure to the sell-side heat, the only podcast you need on the Miami street. Hey. Real numbers, real talk. The hyperbole stops here. This is the Miami Condo Exchange, y'all.
Happy Tuesday, Miami. This is the Miami Condo Exchange, a statistical look at what's going on in the condo market of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. This week, we're discussing, you hear that sound? You hear that slight little leak? The unraveling, the bursting of the bubble, the condo bubble in the South Florida condo market. For the 7th time in 8 weeks, we've seen the South Florida Condo Cliff Index actually decrease. We're in a heck of a run right now. This is a market where active listings are falling and pending sales are falling even more. Buyers, despite falling prices, are not yet stepping in. Why? Does it have to do with mortgage rates coming in north of 6.75? Does it have to do with $4 gasoline? Does it have to do with the affordability issue? Does it have to do with the midterm elections coming up in November at the beginning of the winter buying season? But we're stuck here halfway point of the summer buying season, which goes from May through October. If you're a buyer, you probably got a window up through November. Your choice. Pick what you want. If you're a seller, good luck getting through until you got a next chance you have to sell. It's when we're talking about turkey, we're talking about stuffing, we're talking about cranberries. It's going to be a pretty desperate time for sellers and a pretty good time for buyers. Why? Because we are in the midst of the summer buying season, which is all about heat, humidity, hurricane warnings. Nobody's in town unless they're local and or they are shopping for a deal. I'm not going to say a dumpster diver, but people in town looking for condos right now, they are looking for value and they're looking to take advantage of cash-strapped condo sellers, many of which bought in 2021, 2022, 2023, when you didn't have to wear a mask in the state of Florida. Thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis. Blue states, the big bad blue states, they were mandating masks. Florida said, no, come on down. Corporations allowed you to work from home. It didn't matter if you worked on Wall Street, you worked in Silicon Valley. You could work anywhere. You could live anywhere and work for those companies. You could collect a big paycheck out of Silicon Valley in Northern California. You could have been collecting a paycheck on Wall Street and you could have been living in Miami, where supposedly it was cheaper. And just for kicks, City Miami Beach, they permitted you to go to Ocean Drive, get out a police car, and twerk, twerk, twerk. Completely different times right now. Those people are stuck in the 21, 22, 23 era. They're finding it very difficult right now. And if you were a buyer, if you had to suffer through all of the FOMO talk about you got to come in, how Miami's the hottest place around, if you don't do it now, you're never going to be able to get in. Well, you right now look like the most intelligent people around. Why? Because prices are coming down. They're coming down. So are active listings, which make it kind of interesting. Typically, when you see the listings go down, you would think that the market would be firming up. But our market's going in the opposite direction. There's a big report that came out today talking about home builders, talking about Home Depot. You know, that retailer you go to. I'm not talking about the ice and all the pickups and how Home Depot's working with ice in order to pick up some of those day laborers. No. We're talking about their revenues, their profitability. It's not doing what they thought it was going to do. Why? Because they're calling it a freeze in the housing market. Got a lot of headwinds right now for sellers, buyers. You got basically the wind at your back. However, if you're looking to get financing, could be a little bit more challenging. As of August the 3rd, Fannie Mae, secondary buyer of mortgages, they announced no more limited reviews for condo association mortgage applications, which means it's going to take longer to get a mortgage. It's going to cost more because of paperwork, and more people are going to get rejected. So that's what we're faced with right now as we sit here on the 18th of August, 2026, in that period of time where we're coming up to what typically is a very active part of the hurricane season in South Florida. So that's what we're going to get in today. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investment Club. Every Tuesday we go live and we are talking statistics on the Miami Condo Exchange. What's the Miami Condo Exchange? What's the premise? Well, when we look at the market in South Florida, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, especially east of Interstate 95, is that this is a trading pit. This is a trading floor for condos right now. If you were to buy stocks, you buy bonds, you buy crypto, you're doing it on your phone using an app, most likely. Back in the day, you had a broker. You would call that broker. The broker would call somebody on the floor, the trading floor. That person who answered the phone, they'd write up an order. They'd give it to a runner. Runner would take the order. They'd take it to the pit, and people who had the hands out, they were selling. Hands in, they were buying. And that's the way stuff got done back then, way back in the day. Well, when you look at the South Florida condo market, I want you to look at the condos as if they are commodities. They're no different than oil. They're no different than salty snacks. They're no different than pork bellies. And we have a new addition. New addition is those tokens to use AI. Those are commodities. That's all they are, is commodities. So when we look at condos, we see rebar, we see cement, and we basically see glass. And as a result, condos are commodities. You might have a nice, name on it because it's named after a restaurant. Maybe it's named after a car. Maybe it's after a fashion company, whatever the case may be. But it's all just a commodity at the end of the day. These units trade price per square foot. On the way in, maybe it seems like it's something special, but on the resale market, it trades like a commodity, no different. And because of that, we look at the South Florida condo market as if it's just a big trading pit for condos, hence the name Miami Condo Exchange. So what we're going to rely on for this week's presentation is what we always rely on, our South Florida Condo Cliff Index. What we do with the index, we got active listings, we got pending sales. We are tracking it. We're trying to give a real-time perspective of what's going on in the market, not only in the overall market, but also on the vintage side. What is vintage? Vintage is those condos that are at least 30 years old. It's a nice name to say old condos. Now, why would we care about vintage condos? Because June 24th, 2021, a tower goes down at 87th and Collins Avenue in the Barrier Island, Miami-Dade County, immediately north of the boundary, the border, City of Miami Beach. Nearly 100 people died. A $1 billion settlement is paid out to families of victims. Insurance companies, they don't like it. They don't want to be insuring buildings in which they don't know anything. They lobby the legislature. Legislature goes ahead. They pass a bunch of revisions. They put in place a bunch of laws, and they're all meant towards transparency. Transparency in terms of sharing information that's available for unit owners as well as prospective buyers, as well as mandatory inspections every 10 years now in Florida. You got to do a mandatory inspection called the Structural Integrity Reserve Study. It serves every 10 years. Year 30, you got to do something called a milestone inspection. Typically, when you do that milestone inspection, think of it like a midlife crisis for a building. At that point, everything gets evaluated. It's done by a licensed architect, licensed engineer. They will provide a shelf life, how perishable, how vulnerable is a building. They'll lay it all out. They will then give their findings over to numbers people within the organization, and all of it will be put together. They'll tell you how long the roof's going to last, how long the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the structure, all of it. They'll also give you a dollar amount as to what it's going to cost. That report, they put a bow on it, just for kicks. They hand it over to the condo board. Condo board now has to basically adopt it. Then they have to fund it. They can fund it through a special assessment. Typically, they give you about a year to pay if you're an individual unit owner, and or association can take out a loan. But if they take out a loan, they're probably taking it for private money, where the interest rates are going to be 9, 10, 11, 12%, especially with a rising 10-year treasury, which is going up and up and up and up. A lot of it has to do with the deficit. A lot of it has to do with concerns about what's going on with the U.S. Just in general, as well as maybe some of the issues going on in Japan. It's a completely different story, but that's kind of where we stand. If you are in one of these older buildings, one of these vintage condos, 30 years old or older, special assessment you're probably looking at is, based on our best guesstimate, that building's up to 4 stories, called $25,000 per unit. If the building is between 5 and 14 stories, that's probably going to be about $65,000 a unit. And if the building's 15 stories or taller, $100,000 special assessment is what everybody's getting hit with. So As a result, sellers want out. Buyers, they don't want to step in and take on somebody else's problems. So what are they doing? The buyers are sitting on the couch. They get off the couch when the deals are there. If the deals are great, buyers will step forward. And if they're not great, they're going to sit on the sidelines. And what that does is it just basically creates the pressure that we called in June of 2024, the Florida Condo Association financial cliff, a situation where you're living in a condo, you're paying everything, everything's going fine, people around you start to go bad. As they start to go bad, either intentionally or unintentionally, that puts pressure on those people who continue to pay. They suddenly have to make up for those people who can't pay. Services get cut, costs go up, and 4 deals in a building trade recalibrates the entire building. Now, on the way up in 2021, 2022, 2023, when you could work from home, you didn't have to wear a mask, and you could twerk from a police car, that was fantastic. On the way down, it's frightening. It's scary. And as a result, sellers trying to pull the ripcord and get the heck out. They are heading for the exits. They've been trying to get ahead for the exits. The problem is many of them getting caught up with their own psychology. They think these condos are special. They think they are unique, just like they think their one kid is great at soccer, the other one is on the honor roll, their significant other is good looking, they got the best job, they drive the best car. But comes a moment when you have to sort of come to the realization that maybe you were sugarcoating a little bit. We don't do any sugarcoating down here. Chamber of Commerce, we never sugarcoat. Sell-side agents, we don't sugarcoat. Trees go to the moon, it'll happen. And that's kind of where we find ourselves today. So with our index, we launched it January 1st, 2025. We are tracking 23 markets overall in 23 markets that are vintage. Just to be able to take a look what's going on in the marketplace. We look at South Florida. We look at Miami-Dade. We look at Broward. We look at Palm Beach. And then we roll out another 19 other markets from Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, Key Biscayne, Fisher Island, North Bay Village, Miami Beach, Sunny Isles Beach, Aventura, Hollywood, Hallandale, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano, Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, downtown West Palm Beach, Palm Beach Island, and don't forget Boca Raton. If I didn't say it already, I'm saying it again. We're tracking all these markets. Why? Try to give you real-time perspective of what's going on in the marketplace. A lot of people rely on closed sales data. Problem with closed sales data, it's after the fact. Typically, closed sales data is released at the end of a quarter. Quarter's 90 days. It's 3 months. What the heck good is it to you if something happened in the first 30 days of a 90-day quarter? It's not going to mean anything. So I want you to consider closed sales data the same way you maybe look at unemployment data. Unemployment data will tell you where we were. A lot of people on Wall Street, they'll say it's 6 months ago. You want to know what's going on today? Take a look at the indices, whether it is the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Russell. They're all going to give you an idea of kind of where we're going for it. So that's why we set up the index or the indices. Again, tracking overall market, tracking the vintage market. Why? To give you real-time perspective of what's going on in the marketplace. And as a result of that, you're able to get a sense, where should I play, where should I not play? As we get into the numbers, I want you to keep in mind, the higher the number, that means advantage seller. The lower the number, advantage buyer. That kind of cut to the chase on all of it, I can tell you very quickly. The strongest condo market overall, South Florida, Palm Beach County. The strongest vintage condo market in all the land, Miami-Dade County. The weakest market, vintage as well as overall, going to be Broward County. So if you are an investor, you want to be going to Broward County. If you are a seller, you probably got a better chance of selling overall Palm Beach County and or on the vintage side, Miami-Dade County. That's the way you sort of use the index. You try to figure out where should I be playing. Keep in mind, in Tri-County, South Florida area, 13,000 condo associations, 760,000 units. By the way, 67% of those units are vintage, at least 30 years old or older. We heard a lot from developers. We heard a lot from the sell side people saying, don't worry about the vintage condos. They're not necessarily a big deal. Well, what I will tell you is the vintage condos are the market. 2 out of every 3, more than 2 out of every 3 units in this market are vintage. They're old. And as a result of that, that really is the market. So the logic says, well, okay, so people should go for what we call modern condos. Those modern condos can be up to 29 years old. 30 years becomes vintage, 29 years, it's modern. People said, okay, let's go for modern. Modern is probably the way to go. I got a surprise for you. Nobody wants the modern condos. They don't want them. They want the vintage condos. Why? They tend to be 40% cheaper. 40% cheaper, asking price on the way in. Why else would they want a vintage condo? Well, assuming it's got a signed inspection report done by a licensed architect, licensed engineer, assuming it's got a funding source for it, what's wrong with that? You probably got a better location. It was built up through 1996, 30 years ago. A lot more land to choose from. Why else would you want a vintage condo? Well, many units are much larger. 1 bedroom back then, 1,200 square feet, one bedroom today, 750 square feet if you're lucky. Back then, two bedroom, 2,000 square feet. Now, two bedroom, 1,000 square feet. So if you're an end user, you want vintage. Another reason to go for vintage, assuming it's got the signed inspection report, it's got a funding source, you get to self-park. All of you have a car. I haven't had one since 2013. Everybody's got a car. They want to self-park. They want to pull right up. They want to walk out. They grab their groceries, do whatever, and do their own thing. Well, developers are very shrewd down here. They realize parking's very expensive to build, about $40,000 a parking space to build. So if you can tandem park them, the front of a car to the bumper of another car, you're going to be able to save on space. If you lift them, maybe you put tandem and you do a lift on, you're going to be able to save on space. Therefore, you can ultimately improve your margin as a developer, or you can reduce your overall costs, however they sort of want to do it. So as a result, increasingly, you have to valet your car in these newer buildings, these modern buildings. Problem with that is, if you're living in a building with 400 units and you're on your way down and you forgot something, you got to go back up, the valet might repark your car. Maybe the valet loses the keys. Maybe, they're slammed and they're not able to get the car when you want it and you have to be somewhere at a certain time. These are all the issues as to why people hate valet. I mean, it's pitched as if valet is a great thing. A lot of people don't want it. And how do you live in a condo and be able to self-park? You buy a vintage condo. So as a result of that, vintage condos are much more popular than the modern condos that are out there on the street. So these are some of the big pictures. You're watching this live, so you're going to be able to see everything. But once the video is done, we're going to go ahead. We're going to edit it. We'll edit it for sound. We'll edit it for look. And after that, we're going to make it available on demand. However, it'll only be available for members of the Miami Condo Investing Club. We're building a community for those people looking for straightforward information about the condo market. We don't give you Chamber of Commerce talk. We do not give you sell-side hyperbole about trees growing on the moon. We collect the data, we analyze the data, we go through it, and we help you understand what's going on in the marketplace. So you can do whatever it is you want to do. Whether you are a DIY buyer, do-it-yourselfer. Whether you're a buyer working with a broker and you want to get more information, you could be a listing agent, can't sell that unit. And a lot of them can't sell that unit. Could be a lender. Maybe you're a private lender. You put money on the street trying to figure out where do we go from here, trying to forecast out, okay, what should we do in 2027? Consider joining the club. Maybe you're a regulator. You could be in Orlando. You could be Tallahassee. Maybe you're in Washington, D.C., trying to get a sense of what's going on in the marketplace. Join the club. Or maybe you're just curious. Maybe you're a gadfly. Everybody's welcome to Miami Condo Investing Club, a community for those people interested in condo information where you cut out all of the fluff and the hyperbole, which South Florida has been good at doing for 100 years now, going back to the 1920s, the great Florida land boom. Which, by the way, next month, we're going to celebrate or recognize the 100-year anniversary of the Great Miami Hurricane, which basically finished off the 1920s Florida land boom. Great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's called Bubble and Sun, written by a guy called Christopher Knowlton. Check it out. But next month, we'll be recognizing the 100-year anniversary of the symbolic end of the 1920s Florida land boom. So that'll be very interesting. So let's go ahead. We'll start sharing script. I'll start sharing my screen and we'll tell you what's going on in the market. We'll show you what's going on in the market. We'll give you the numbers. We'll give you some real-time data so that you can go out and, again, do whatever it is you want.